We're on. Okay, welcome back after lunch and welcome to the Standing Committee meeting for Exec and Finance. Yes, Finance and Corporate. So we'll run through again. We've done the opening, we've had leave of absence, we've got the same. We've done the traditional owners recognition, declaration of interest for the afternoon agenda. Any declarations there, councillors? No, all good. We'll move straight on to 5.1, the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, and they are listed from page 5 through to 24. The recommendation is obviously that we would accept them, so that the minutes of the Executive and Finance and Corporate Standing Committee meeting held on the 18th of May 22 be received. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Erkins. Second, Councillor Potter. Any comments, questions out of the minutes of the previous meeting? If not, we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 7.1, Councillor Duff.
I'd like to move a procedural motion that this matter be dealt with in conjunction with item 10.4, which is the Visitor Information Centre accreditation.
So, Councillor, are you asking for 10.4 to be brought forward up, and we'll do it now with 7.1? Okay, we'll move down. We'll take 7.1 down to 10.4. Do we need a motion, a vote on that? Do we need to agree? I guess we do. Councillor Duff moves that we put 7.1 down and talk to it in conjunction with 10.4. Councillor Erkins seconds that. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, 9.1, we go on to our portfolio for corporate services, people, culture, communications, media and finance, and that's me. Can I just present that as read? Okay, so the officer's recommendation that Mayor Otto's corporate governance, strategy, people and culture, communications, media, finance and sustainability and ICT and fleet portfolio report to council be received. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Duff. Questions, comments in regards to that report? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We'll now go to page 35, sorry, no. .3 on page 35, I've just done that. Meeting dates, 9.2 we need to go to. There we go, turned the wrong page, sorry. 9.2, meeting dates for the ordinary meetings of council, standing committees, general meetings and budget meeting. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that the council adopt the dates, times and locations for ordinary meetings of council, standing committees, general meetings as follows. And you've got a list right the way through from the 6th of July all the way through to the 14th of December. Is there any queries, questions or availability issues with any of those dates you see in front of you? All good. Okay, so we'll go to the recommendation that the committee recommends to council that council adopt the dates, times and locations for ordinary meetings of council's standing committees, general meetings as follows. As I said, the list is there below. We have a mover, Councillor Potter, seconder, Councillor Duff. Comments, questions? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 9.3. Assignment of councillor portfolio representation, that the committee recommend to council. So the recommendation is here. So this is all up for discussion. We've had this debate. There was two sides to the debate, and so I guess the best way to address this would be open to the floor. Comments, conversations. Councillor Duff.
I'd like to move a procedural motion that this matter lay on the table until we have the Mayor and the CEO in here, because councillors were supposed to report back to both the Mayor and the CEO, and I don't know whether that's happened or not, so just procedural motion.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Erkins. Questions, comments? Happy to leave it on the tape. Councillor Erkins.
I'd just like to make a comment because I'd really like...
Sorry, you can't
okay.
speak to a procedural motion.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies. Okay. And well picked up, Councillor Shoemaker. Yeah, once it's a procedural motion, we go straight to the vote. So the procedural motion is from Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Erkins, that the committee recommend to council that the matter lay on the table, and we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. That'll come back to the next Finance Corporate Standing Committee. There we go. 9.4. So we've got the reinforced concrete pipes and precast concrete products procurement exception, and the officer's recommendation is that the report be received for information, and we'll go straight to the staff. And Louise, you might be able to explain and give a little bit of background behind the report.
Thank you. So the report's based on the fact that we've had some significant supply chain issues experienced in the stores department. We recently tendered for a preferred supply arrangement for reinforced concrete pipes. The unfortunate part is that we actually received nil responses. We're actually experiencing up to 40 weeks lead time on reinforced concrete pipes. So we are seeking an exception to engage under Section 234 of the Local Government Regulation, which is engaging under a local buyer pre-qualified supply arrangement. This doesn't alleviate the lead time, but it does alleviate the pressures involved on the quoting process required by us under our purchasing thresholds. So unfortunately, the deviation from our procurement process may not always provide us with the most financially efficient option. We may not always obtain the correct number of quotes required in accordance to our purchasing threshold table, and it may not always be for the quotation time frame indicated within the purchasing threshold table. The unfortunate part about this excessive lead time is that we get pipes from wherever we can get pipes from. Unfortunately, it may come at a cost to council.
Okay, so you heard the commentary around that and the why it's been brought forward, the report. Any questions from the councillors? It is a report just to be noted for information. Any other questions? Nothing else to add, Louise, before we go? All good?
Based on the fact that, just some background on why we're having a shortage. It is a nationwide shortage. So it's not just this council experiencing it, it is every other council within Queensland and Australia-wide, to be perfectly honest. So just so you know that Rockler, who's one of the main manufacturers, has closed numerous sites in the last 12 to 18 months. And the COVID-19 government funding for large-scale and shovel-ready infrastructure then has placed strengthened demand on those requirements as well. So it's just a compounding issue that has brought us to this situation, and we're not the only ones in this boat, unfortunately. So I believe Australia, according to industry experts, Australia is facing its worst material shortage. So this is just the beginning. This is the first thing that we've experienced that's going to affect us operationally. Anything else that I forecast is going to affect us operationally, I will bring to council for your information also.
Yeah, I think they're fair comments, Louise. Yeah, as councillors, we're well aware of what's going in and the costs that are escalating on projects that we've approved only months ago, and we come to get final costings and all that. It's just through the roof and exorbitant because wants and needs and how we get it and all that sort of stuff. And it's in the private sector as well. So, no, hats off to you guys for what you do. So, thank you very much for giving us that information. So, councillors, if you've got no other questions or comments, We'll go to the officer's recommendation that the report be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, second to Councillor Potter. Go to the vote. If there's no other comments, we'll, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.1, Regional Development Portfolio Report, and it's my pleasure to hand over to Councillor Shoemaker now to do her June update. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Following on from last month's report, I recently represented our council at the Update with Stanwell's Board of Directors and Executive and Site Leadership team to understand their strategy and current operations. It was a great opportunity to meet the recently appointed Non-Executive Chair and Director Paul Binstead. Mr Binstead was grateful for the warm welcome he and his board received to the South Burnett. I also met with Tisby Energy and Infrastructure team with CEO Mark Pitt. I extended that invitation to all councillors. At the meeting with Tisby, the Tisby team offered to connect us with the Western Downs Regional Council and support us in understanding how we may be able to influence fair, reasonable and transparent outcomes and attract investment in renewable energy in our region. I'll provide the details of the proposed meeting with Western Downs Regional Councillor to councillors and hope at the meeting we can discuss some of the work they have undertaken and look at how we may be able to adopt something that works for our region. Tisby also gave an update about their recent representation at the Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association Conference and Exhibition in Brisbane. This is a national conference where they showcase the region's suitability for major energy projects as well as the regional strengths in supply chain to support jobs and skills required in the energy sector of the future. I understand both the Tisby and the Southern Queensland Hydrogen Industry Institute stands were busy and the buoyant market activity reflected the positivity in the energy sector largely due to price demand. Some of the key takeaways TSB shared is that global and domestic energy demands are creating more need for cheap energy as we transition to new energy sources. Together with balancing increasing global demand, we need a balance of energy to supply cheap, reliable energy to support all users of energy, and gas and coal will certainly play a role in that transition as we grow our renewable baseload. Carbon capture will also play a large role in meeting opportunity to reduce and meet emissions targets for CSG, coal and heavy emitting industry. Australia and the Surat Basin do have the geographical resources to provide that opportunity. The transition of energy on the net zero journey is creating a demand for a variety of energy such as renewables, batteries, pumped hydro, bioenergy and hydrogen. There's no other region with such a diverse mix of energy supply in Australia, and it will only grow as demand for energy increases. Tisby is proud to have a relationship with most of the projects in the region to understand their demands and to support members to connect to these opportunities. Australia is positioned to provide clean energy globally, and industry throughout the supply chain has more intention to meet these targets. Workforce attraction means that early education around entering the workforce will play a big role in the regional energy industry. This is not just a challenge for the energy sector, but will have direct opportunities in attracting people to this industry early. Energy prices are up, so now is the time to drive innovation and technology in the services sector for when things swing. There's no better time to think about how local business can capture the current market trends for the long term by looking at innovation, new markets or new technology. As we bring in new energy technology and more projects to the region, the need for better and continued stakeholder engagement to bring the community along on the journey is required. Understanding the S, meaning social, in the ESG discussion will play a large role. Our region has a history of supporting new industry, but we need to ensure we continue to create the broader trust that new industries can bring to the region. I certainly agree with Tisby's sentiment that while the energy sector is in a very disruptive state, it is during times of disruption that we have the chance to create opportunity for our region, and this is what we plan to do on our pathway to becoming the energy capital of Australia. As I've shared with my colleagues, Tisby will be hosting the Surat Basin Energy Summit later next month and have encouraged our attendance. I know we have discussed a similar roundtable forum and believe the summit in Dalby will be a great opportunity to learn and frame what a similar conversation in our region could look like. I also recently followed up on my conversations with the Assistant Minister for Hydrogen, Lance McCallum, and with CEO Mark met with representatives from the Department of Energy and Public Works Director David Wright, along with Managing Director Energy Transition Matthew Yeo and Director Hydrogen Coordination Unit Rachel Oden. At the meeting, we discussed the enormous demand and interest in renewable energy projects to meet the state government's decarbonisation targets of 50% by 2030. The representatives agreed to achieve those targets and facilitate growth. There is much work that must happen. We discussed the importance of coordination and support for communities like ours that have been identified to have good resources and transmission network strengths. The department listened to the concerns I've raised in this chamber with regards to ensuring renewable energy project proponents appropriately engage with the community and demonstrate their commitment to being a good neighbour. As a council, I believe we must continue to advocate for renewable energy proponents to commit to maintaining a relationship of trust and understanding with our community, to developing a social licence and ensuring our community has an opportunity to engage in open, fair and transparent conversations about these projects from the onset. Our community needs to have the confidence in how these projects are designed, planned, constructed and operated, and that there are systems in place that ensure the operators genuinely engage, respond and consider any concerns or feedback raised by our community. At the meeting with the Department of Energy and Public Works, we discussed the critical importance of a social impact assessment and supporting regulatory frameworks that enable communities like ours to navigate the opportunities presented by renewable energy projects in our region, ensure meaningful social investment and extract the supply chain benefits in a transparent way. This is something I've been advocating for since the start of this term and will continue to do so. As Council elected me and Councillor Potter to be its representatives at the upcoming ALGA General Assembly, I've been working with the Executive Services team and LGAQ to broker meetings with Queensland Senators via the Honourable David Littleproud's office while I'm in Canberra. At the time of writing this, and I can confirm, unfortunately, Parliament does not seem to be sitting on those dates, so it's very much unknown and very much unlikely that I'll be able to meet with those senators. The purpose of those meetings, of course, was to advocate for the needs of the region. I also recently attended the Wide Bay Resources Group meeting and opportunity showcase on the 31st of May in Bundaberg, and the focus of the day was to receive any updates on activity from member exploration and mining companies, inspect and hear of the current and future developments at the Port of Bundaberg, whereby Chair of the Port of Bundaberg, Dr. Anthony Lynham, joined us and sent his best wishes to our region. Virtually tour the Sunstate Sands Silica Sand Mine, which was fascinating, and facilitate introductions and informal discussions. At the meeting, I met with representatives from Kingaroy Kaolin Pty Ltd and learn more about their operations in our region and regional transport needs. It was also interesting to learn about the diverse range of minerals in the Wide Bay Burnett region that will be critical to the construction of renewable energy projects into the future. As part of the discussion, the Deputy Director General Minerals and Energy Resources, Sean Ferris, and Deputy Director General State Development Group, Michelle Bauer, agreed to champion the concept of a minerals task force who will lead further conversations about the development of supporting infrastructure that would enable the potential pipeline of mineral exploration projects across the Wide Bay Burnett to come to fruition. I also attended the Bundaberg Burnett Regional Water Assessment Investment Logic Mapping Workshop, and I'd like to thank Andrew Hetherington, Adam McVeigh and Stuart Nicholson, who gave their time to be part of this conversation and advocate for water infrastructure in our region. As part of the process, we engaged in robust debate and discussed the disparity in water challenges across the region for urban, commercial, industrial and agricultural purposes. The development of the investment logic map will be another key milestone to inform the state government's investment and further investigation and development of the option shortlist of our region has already identified as part of its National Water Infrastructure Development Fund, South and North Burnett business case. I hold great hope that some of the projects we have identified in the South Burnett will be progressed by the government through business case phase and that we may see some shovels in the ground into the future. We absolutely know our capability as a region relies on secure, affordable and sustainable water now and into the future, and I look forward to the release of the investment logic map. I also met with Tourism and Events Queensland and Southern Queensland Country. Again, an invitation was extended to all councillors for this meeting. TEQ shared some information about the proposed realignment of regional tourism organisations across Queensland. I also learned of their extensive campaigns that SQCT have been undertaking to attract international tourists to their member councils. I'd like to see our council reconsider the opportunity to partner with our RTO with a financial membership into the new year, as I do believe the return on this investment would strengthen our reach and support the tourism industry. Our neighbouring councils are reaping the benefits as such, and it concerns me that the South Burnett is missing out on these opportunities. As I have strongly advocated in the past, I believe a three-way partnership between the RTO, LTO, being Visit South Burnett, and this council will be critical if we are to grow our tourism industry and encourage new money into our economy. There have been many other meetings and phone calls with regards to regional development portfolio over this past month, which has served as a reminder of the importance of appropriately resourcing the regional development department into the future. As I continue to say, the South Burnett will absolutely be the next growth story. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'd like to move that my report be accepted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Any questions or comments there? Been busy, Councillor Shoemaker. You've been travelling quite extensively and obviously representing the council very, very well. So other than that, doing a wonderful job. Any comments, councillors, before we go to the vote? Okay, so the recommendation is that the regional development, wrong one, I'm a step ahead. That Councillor Shoemaker's regional development portfolio report to council be received for information. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.2, Regional Development and Tourism Monthly Update. The officer's recommendation that the Regional Development and Tourism Monthly Update for May 22 be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, second Councillor Potter. Councillor Shoemaker, any comments in regards to that? The report's there, but yep, any comments?
Yeah, just great to read that the Visitor Information Centre received a steady increase of visitors across all centres in May. They're estimating that to be an increase of about 10% and attributing it to a number of bus tours that we conducted at Kingaroy, Nanango and Wondai. So, yeah, it's just fabulous, and certainly great to read on that National Volunteers Week was celebrated with a guided tour around the Bundaberg homestead and a high tea at the Proston Golf Club. And that's great to hear. Thank you, Councillor Duff, for your involvement in that. And just in relation to the Visitor Services Review there on page 61, it was unfortunate. Many of the councillors were unable to attend a session on Friday where we actually went through the Visitor Service Review findings paper. I have been in conversations with CEO Mark. The plan was to have that paper completed by the 30th of June. However, as many of you were unavailable or haven't had a chance to have a look at it and have these discussions, just been working with CEO Mark to push that out until July or August so that we can all be appropriately informed about the information brought forward through that process. I think that would be very important before we make any decisions about visitor information centres into the future. Everybody has the information, so certainly would like to thank Stacey Perrott and Sam for all the work they've done on that Visitor Service Review. It's quite a lengthy document. I think it's over 100 odd pages. All councillors do have it in your inboxes, so please do take the time to have a look at it. And I hope that we may be able to, I understand it will come at a cost to council to set up another workshop, but as half the team was unavailable, I think that's something we'll need to look at into the future if we are to actually give the report and the review the time, the energy and the effort that it deserves. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones.
Thank you. All righty. So any more questions? Councillor Duff.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Yeah, it was great to have all of the volunteers out in Proston, and just had wonderful feedback from the Proston community, and particularly the golf club. We're delighted to host that event. So I just also want to flag that I worked in the Visitor Information Centre again on Sunday as part of the market day in Mergen, and the lady who was working with me, Kathy, was also Kathy, and she suggested we actually open the doors of the centre, which is something that's not normally done. And we had 32 visitors in there as opposed to 14 the month before. So I just thought, just wanted to flag that, because when the doors were open, it actually looked like it was more inviting, whereas before it's always been closed. Unless you saw the sign that it was actually open, you would be a bit intimidated to go in there. So I just wanted to make note of that as an observation, and it certainly made a difference.
Councillor Erkins.
I'd just like to make a comment on the paper that we've been given. I'm a little bit disappointed because I've spoken to a number of people who were not consulted on the findings of this, of the study. And I know that NAPTA are now actually conducting a little bit of a survey themselves amongst the accommodation places. No, I'm talking about this here, about the information, for the information centres.
Page 61.
That's what Kirsty was talking about when she said it was disappointing that there was only a couple of us here. So you probably don't have it because it was given to us.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was given to us at that, what was it? Yeah, it was emailed. It's where they did the study on the information centres. And I just want to make, a note made that NAPTA were not consulted. I spoke to someone from the Visit South Burnett, and they said that someone did speak to them, but it wasn't actually a consultation. And I don't believe they spoke to any of the accommodation places in Nanango. So I just don't think it was a very comprehensive study, not as comprehensive as we were led to believe at the meeting.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I think the feedback that has been raised today is relevant, and I guess I'd just encourage my fellow councillors to provide that feedback in writing to the team so that there can actually be an appropriate response to that, because from what I understand, our Visitor Information Centre coordinator actually contacted a lot of, or personally tried to contact a lot of the agencies that were interviewed as part of the review, and I just think it would be important for her to be able to, for her to receive that feedback if you have got it, that there is some concern to that regard. I know I have spoken to some people who were engaged in the conversation and were a little confused about what it was about, and that certainly was concerning for me. But I do think if you've got feedback like that, certainly, doors opening in the Visitor Information Centre and stuff, they're things that can't actually, or the feedback about the services review, it's good to be able to provide that back to the staff who are relevant. So perhaps CEO Mark, for that feedback, will be able to respond.
Thank you. So we'll go, any more questions? We should have enough there. We'll go to the officer's recommendation that the Regional Development and Tourism Monthly Update for May 22 be received for information. Been moved by Councillor Hanson, second by Councillor Potter. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.3, Regional Community Forums. The officer's recommendation is that the report be received for information. Oh, sorry. I didn't, Mr. CEO, you'd want to make a comment? Yep.
No, Mayor, no.
I don't know whether you can hear me, Mark, but we can't hear you, mate. Sorry.
Sorry, Acting Chair. As I said, I'm just getting prepped in, but happy for questions. But also the councillors already have started the debate on the Vixen, so there's a little bit of discussion in the next couple of reports. So no, I've nothing, Acting Chair, except if you would questions. The report was requested by the Mayor. It's been held here previously. Acting Chair, you attended the last time here as Council's rep. The Mayor was unable to attend, and it's presented for information.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Mrs. Mr. CEO, you had me confused totally. But anyway, I've been instructed to move on. So we're going on to 10.3, Regional Community Forums. And this is probably what the Mr. CEO request by the Mayor for information on the history and makeup of the Queensland State Government Regional Community Forums, and the officer's recommendation that the report be received for information. So I dare say that we may have discussed that. So you can see there the background underneath there. It's just a report to be received. Is there any comments, Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, I just wanted to advise, I did actually, through this process, I have found out that Sean Nicholson and Amy Wicks are the forum members for the South Burnett, if you would like to reach out to them. It was rather interesting. I had made an application to be part of the forum. I went through, had to have my criminal services check and all of those things. And then in the end, they kind of told me I was a councillor and I wouldn't be able to participate anyway. So just, I guess, raising it for everybody's knowledge that Sean and Amy are our members. These regional forums are a really important platform to really advocate for the things that are important to our region. And I think both Amy and Sean will do a wonderful job. And I do hope to catch up with them in the next month to sort of just understand more and see how we may be able to support them in those roles. But very excited that we have two very capable members representing the South Burnett in those forums.
Thanks, Councillor, and myself and Councillor Hanshin. I've since spoken to Amy Wicks after she attended the one up at the Fraser Coast, and she was very nervous to go there. Didn't know whether she'd be able to participate at the level, but she's come away, and you're 100% right. She's done an exceptional job up there, and she's looking forward to representing the South Burnett and the region as a whole in further forums. So if there's no more questions, we'll go to the vote. That the report be received for information. All those in favour? Oh, did we got that? Righto. Councillor Shoemaker will move, Bree, and Councillor Erkin second it. No more questions. We'll all go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Unanimous. Well picked up, Bree. Sorry for that. Alrighty, we've now come to 10.4 and we've also brought down 7.1 to address that. So the notice of motion moved by Councillor Duff way back. Should have kept that out, shouldn't I? It's 25. There it is. The motion is that the committee recommend to council that a report be brought back to the next standing committee as to the options for using existing staff in each of the towns using a roster system to work in the visitor information centres across the region. The rationale was I was asked by members of the Mergen Business and Development Association to raise the option of existing staff from the Mergen office working in the visitor information centre supported by volunteers. There are complaints that the computer system and the requirements are too difficult for many of the volunteers and they no longer wish to work in our visitor information centres. It has been suggested that the staff who are rostered on could do their normal work in the VIC rather than in the Mergen office and manage the administrative side of the VIC work. The volunteers could then enjoy doing what they love and simply engaging with the visitors and selling our region to them. This could be rolled out across all of our visitor information centres and would be the answer to the current volunteer shortage. So that is a segue into 10.4. We've got Mr. CEO online. I'll go to you, Mr. CEO, and then to Councillor Duff as the mover of the notice of motion to start the conversation. So over to you, Mr. CEO.
Okay. My apologies, Chair, for my voice. Thanks. The notice of motion, and not to speak against it, it's very happy to bring back a report. It won't necessarily be the answer to the accreditation issue. If councils will recall, back in last March, we had the where we commissioned, we first talked about the visitor strategy, which is engaging with a whole range of different people to look at the futures of the VIC. That report was funded out of this the work has been funded out of this financial year. And at that point in time, the accreditation on the VIX was due for renewal on 31st of March. We were successful in getting that extended statewide. There wasn't only just us for the relaxation for the accreditation rules. So that has been extended out to the 30th of June. Regrettably, depending on how you view accreditation, there is no lawful way we can maintain accreditation for every VIC come 1st of July because we just don't open. And even with the rostering of the staff and the rotation of the staff in the short term, there won't be a guarantee that we can keep the 7 days a week, the 42 hours from memory up per week of the doors open that would keep it. Partly where I sort of got a little bit muddled myself, Chair, before was with the conversation in the tourism report and certainly the feedback with Councillor Erkins with NAPTA and those with any of that's love to hear it back. And I know Tilma Group would be pleased we'd pass on any of that feedback back to them. Without preempting the report, the council staff moving over to do the administration work would have an impact on their day-to-day duties. But this can all be bundled up, and we've certainly spoken to Tilma. The 30th of June deadline to have the visitor engagement strategy finalised by was predominantly being driven by that resolution in March. So if council's happy to roll that into July and even August so that we can have because it is a big issue, that there needs to be some form of action taken. Now, what form of action? These are all the different options that are being presented and the different ideas are being placed. And acknowledge and thanks Councillor Duff for bringing the Mergen Business Association's idea to the table. It's just another idea and one of several that would need to be fully explored. Hence, the reason to do the report is not so much of a problem. Giving that specific Mergen issue, so from the 1st of July, the point of sale system is going to be removed from the Mergen VIC, and the volunteers will go back to the previous system that they had a lot more ease with, which was a manual recording of everything. And the phone and IT have also purchased new phones. So from the last time that it was raised by the volunteer up there, those actions have been undertaken and will come into effect as of 1st of July. So that should ease some of the issues that they have with that administration or technology side. But the next report, which really is for information, it is a hard deadline. We can't extend it any further. So unless we're open 7 days a week, 42 hours as of 1st of July, the yellow eyes on the blue sign will be replaced by the white eyes or the blue eyes on the white sign, whichever it is. And so they'll move across to information centres rather than accredited centres. The one thing that I would suggest as we go through these things is we had a proposal from the Wandi volunteers that have only just come in this last week for a Sunday rotation. So they're playing with their hours and are looking to open on Sundays because they get better bang for their buck, and certainly supporting what Councillor Duff was talking about with Mergen on Sunday. So they're looking at playing with their hours. An information centre as opposed to an accredited centre does give you don't have to meet that minimum capacity and gives you the flexibility to move the hours around that suits what we need as a style. So with these next couple, long answer short is it's certainly very possible to have the whole matter bundled up, including the visitor engagement strategy and brought back in July or August. But certainly July, we've spoken to Tilma Group, and they're comfortable with that as a change of deadline. And all these ideas, the feedback is so welcome because this is a big old question that's going to need many minds to come up with an answer.
Questions, Councillor Duff.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, just to the CEO. So in this report, it says that we need to, there's a deadline and we need to make a decision with regards to further options to staffing the Kingaroy Visitor Information Centre 7 days a week will need to be investigated. So you're saying that the deadline was the 30th of June, but now you're saying it's okay to leave it till July, August with all of this?
No.
Is that, or do we have to make a decision on some?
No, Councillor, that's not what I said. What I said was what I'm saying is that the Tilma report or the visitor engagement strategy had a a deadline of 30 June because resolution we passed in March. We spoke about having that report back so that we could look at the accreditation. We can take that report back. As of 1st of July, we can maintain, we believe we're looking at how we maintain one centre. If council was of a mind to let them all go to information centres, we can. But certainly in talking to the staff involved, we believe we can maintain one centre at an accredited status and get it through the accreditation, which would be Kingaroy at the minute. We're looking at those options as we speak so that can be ticked that box as of 1st of July. But the 30th of June for the accreditation, the others will start to roll back into information centres as of early July.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, so that's my concern. My concern is that if we have Kingaroy as the accredited centre, that the focus from staffing and everything will be on holding that 1 to 7 days a week, and in the meantime, that I'm concerned about the viability and long-term chances of those other visitor information centres holding their, like, not being actually undermined and potentially closed, because our focus is then on Kingaroy as opposed to the other centres. So it really does concern me that we would go down that path. And the other question is, if we decide to not have any of them accredited and just have flexible hours with all of them, what do we lose by not having any of them accredited?
The only thing that we would lose is one, if we maintain one, whichever one. But let's just take the debate to, if we maintain one, we maintain access into the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse and a couple of the Tourism Queensland functions. So it gives us a pathway into into those external agencies. If you're suggesting that this is, and I'm not actually, I'll correct that. If your concern is that this is some sort of a strategy to allow for the others to be shut, the Wandai example I just gave of them going on to a trial to open Sunday and move their hours around to get better value and get also better exposure to the public is an example of exactly the opposite. There is no intention, barring a council decision, and the council decision will come out of a strategy, which is what we are discussing at the moment. So there would be no change or closing or undermining of any of the centres. Again, we wouldn't be going to the trouble of trying to rectify the issues that the Mergen volunteers have if we had already decided to shut them. There is no decision made until council makes such a decision. And what would be really good is that we have actually, and the opportunity for all councillors to participate in a consistent vision for what these centres do going forward, whichever form it takes. So end decision is up to council about where they go. July will provide, hopefully, all the details and the information council needs to make some of those informed decisions.
Councillor Duff, do you want to respond to anything, or while you're going?
Just through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, but what you're saying here is that the report says that we look at keeping Kingaroy as a accredited centre. Like, if we have to make a decision one way or the other with regards to that, because there is a deadline. Is that correct? So we are we're looking to make a decision about accreditation with one of the centres.
No, we're not asking council to make that decision today. We think we're going to lose all of the accreditations. What we're trying to do is maintain one. So it's as simple as that. So it's a maintenance of one centre. It could be Wandai. It really doesn't matter. It could be Nanango. It really, at the moment, Kingaroy is looking the most likely that it will tick all the boxes that the accreditation audit requires. See, it may be the one to pass. If council does nothing, the accreditation audit will come through and the centres will either pass or fail on the accreditation audit. It's really not an active decision of council at this point. That's probably, if I can explain it that way. What we're trying to do is there's a risk that all will not get through the accreditation audit, and If they do, all right, and we lose that for a period of time, we can reapply for accreditation. We would still have to get Kingaroy through that accreditation audit and make sure it passes if it's the one or whichever centre we pick on, as in to try and maintain the accreditation. It would be good to maintain one. It won't be the end of the world if we don't maintain any.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I just want to confirm for the chamber and the people watching, it's my understanding that in our draft budget discussions that we've had today, we are actually planning on continuing to fund every centre next financial year. Is that correct, CEO Mark? There's no change to resources or anything that we're doing in that regard. If anything, when I look at the budget and the discussions that we've had, the budget's definitely been scrutinised and over the past number of years, and the reality is, you know, every service has been scrutinised, so that's not unique. But I just want to confirm for everybody listening and for the chamber that it's my understanding that all visitor information centres will be funded just as they currently are next year, and that nothing is changing in that regard.
Chair, through you, Chair, that's correct. If I was going to give the centres a plug, we'd love more money. They're running very, very lean, but that's a plug. At this point in time, the budget is being if the budget is adopted as discussed, there will be funding is being maintained for all centres. The only one that has changed over the last couple of years is the co-location with the Roy Emerson Museum. And it's an information. It will be an information centre rather than an accredited VIC. That's the only change. That's been probably from about 12 months ago, 18 months ago.
Yeah, thank you, CEO Mark. I think it's best you probably head back off to bed, I think.
Yeah.
Councillor Erkins.
Yes.
Through you, Mr Chair. CEO Mark, I think Kingaroy also has issues with volunteers, don't they? So it would be a matter of if we decide if we decide that Kingaroy is the centre, that is also going to take some work in getting volunteers up and running so that it is open the amount of hours, because like the other ones, I think they do struggle also with volunteers. So I do see that.
Chair, yes, Councillor Erkins, it's correct. It does have. It's the one sitting most likely or most closest at the moment to the hours that are available. And again, to put, is the intention to raid volunteers off other centres to supplement one? No. It would be done within, I signed some letters just the other week for a couple of new volunteers that started up at Kingaroy. We also do have one of the two tourism staff stationed at Kingaroy, so they are there. So yeah, it is more possible. Yes, they're all struggling, and hence what council resolved and agreed to, which was greatly appreciated, to engage in the into the review of what the options are. And I suppose I've taken the review paper as understanding it's an options paper to give council a full picture of information that's available to it and options. It's not dictating, and I haven't read it this way nor have approached it this way. It's not dictating an action. It's giving a range. And we are very similar to councils all across Queensland and then nationally and internationally, as far as I certainly know some New Zealand examples, how the VIC goes forward in the modern age, particularly with digital technology. It is and the significant proportion of visitors that come through a region and how many actively participate in a VIC. It's an information paper. It gives options. The ultimate decision on what happens with these, I cannot state it enough, will come back to this council, and no one is going to close or render anything less until there's well, not even more. Until there's a decision of council. And again, I'll be clear, very clear, hopefully, is that the bid that we can push back is in March. We had spoken about at the council meeting and having this done by June, and that's been the push in respect of that decision of council. Certainly, if councillors need that and require that little bit more extra time. If we lose accreditation, there is nothing stopping us in the new financial year from reapplying for accreditation for any centre. That's the information I have at this point.
So it's pretty clear, Mr. CEO, and I tend to agree with Councillor Shoemaker. You need to get yourself back into bed, but just give us a thumbs up. It doesn't matter. We're not going to lose any service levels or anything like that from going from a yellow eye down to a wide eye, to keep it simple. The only conversation we've got to have is which visitor information centre we keep accredited, simply because we want to keep in contact with those tourism options and all that sort of stuff. That's the only thing, just to have that little bit of an advantage. The rest of it's just everything will operate as per has been, and there's nothing sinister here about or anything like that in regards to any visitor information centre being preferred over the other. It's just, like you say, you made it quite clear, we can choose any one of them to be accredited, and it's simply just to stay in contact with those couple of tourism boards and that other one, something to do with Australian tourism or whatever it was. That's fair summary?
Yeah, Chair, the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse.
Yep.
Which feeds out, but pretty much correct, and certainly very much looking forward to the discussion, because the one thing that is, and whatever option, be it Councillor Duff's suggestion, be it some of the suggestions out of or Mergen Business Development suggestion, what's happened in the past isn't sustainable into the long term, into the future.
Yep. All right, thank you. Sit back and enjoy the conversation, mate, and just participate when you really see the need. Councillor Shoemaker?
I just had one final question for CEO Mark, just in relation to that visitor services strategy, pushing that out until August, I think is the responsible thing to do, being that half the council hasn't actually been part of any of the feedback from Tilma Group because they weren't able to attend. So do you need a resolution for that, or are you able to act on that?
No, Councillor, through you, Chair, we've spoken to Linda and the Tilma Group, and they're comfortable in pushing it back. The only thing is, if we do anything extra than what we've asked, I've not accounted for that in next year's budget. But I'm not suggesting that I know of any increased funds, but certainly they're more than willing to work with us to have a conversation that produces an outcome that everyone's good with, rather than trying to rush something through. As I said, and it was only that when we did it in March that we had the 30 June, there was discussion at the time to have this finished in this financial year.
Yeah, I definitely think a non-negotiable councillors can't cancel, because it is the third time we've tried to have a conversation about this. You must be at the Visitor Services Strategy Workshop. Will be very important in the next month, so that everybody can be across the detail and we can have conversation about our future strategy based on the feedback provided. I think will be really important. So if you don't need the resolution, CEO Mark, I think, yeah, extending it, not rushing this, taking our time to really go through that report. It is an extensive report, and to make sure everyone's across it and we can, bring all of our ideas to the table, explore all options and find the best way to set our services up for the future, I think will be really important. So thank you. Back to bed, CEO Mark.
I'll be quick.
Councillor Erkins, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CEO Mark, I don't really think, it's not really a matter of us choosing which visitor information centre to stay open. It's really a matter of which one is the most viable, which one is the easiest. You know, I acknowledge that. I can see that. Probably one of my only concerns was, we got this very quickly and then had the meeting afterwards. And I have to say, on my reading through it, I don't have a lot of confidence in some of the information that they gave to us. There's a number of things besides them, so I'd like to have some more time again for us to discuss that, their findings. Thank you.
Yeah, no objection to that. Through your chair, no objection at all. So if we push it out, if we push that report out, feedback on that document would be more than welcome. Actually, it would be. We would be thrilled. So, and if you see things in there that are factually incorrect, for whatever reason, accidentally or other, would love to hear about it, and we can feed it back to the group. Or, happy to organise a workshop and happy to take that feedback. No one's tied to the report. It was as this is what we have to do. It was to present a background and give some sort of an overarching view as to what are the options and what do we do next.
Thanks, Mr. CEO. So I think that might end all the questions. I think we need to, we've had two conversations here, 7.1 and 10.4 joined together. So I suggest that we deal with 7.1, the notice of motion from Councillor Duff, that the committee recommended the council that a report be brought back to the next standing committee as to the options for using existing staff in each of the towns using a roster system. And I think that you answered that quite clearly before, that that's, in your view, not going to be a good option, and it's going to come at a cost and affect the output of the people that we're, as far as staff goes, and what they're actually employed to do by the council. So, Councillor Duff, are you happy if the report, that we don't bring a report back as far as that? What?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, I thought that the CEO said he was happy to bring that report back with details.
Mr. CEO?
Acting Mayor, acting Chair. We're very, as Councillor Duff is correct. I've got some concerns. I don't want that to sound melodramatic about how it would be done and what impact it would have on other services. But it would be the report be brought back. Could we just tie it in with and this is, I suppose, just thinking on my feet with the conversation we had, could we just tie that in with the report on the visitor service strategy and bring as one of the options that a report be brought back as part of the visitor service strategy on options, Councillor Duff? And then that way we can just bundle it all together and save us doubling up and having one report and then having another report come after.
Yes, absolutely happy with that.
Yeah, and then that way we can just deal with the whole thing as one homogeneous blob.
So,
leave the last bit in, please. Yeah, because that was the Mergen business, as I understand what the Mergen Business Association asked for. That was their specific request. And then given that, the other thing is, depending on when we have that workshop, and again, with the indulgence of Councillor Duff, to a future, to the, would it be July or August standing committee, depending on when we have that workshop?
Yep, happy for it to be August if that's when the workshop is.
Well, if we get July down and then we can have the final reports and decision points. And then anyway, it's just a suggestion, Councillor, please, to your resolution.
Sorry, through you, Deputy Mayor, if it's, are we having a workshop on it, could that report be brought back as part of that workshop?
Yeah.
So we need, what do you want to add there, Councillor? Anything, or Mr. CEO, you got in regards to what workshop?
To the workshop as part of the visitor service strategy, because that's what we're having the workshop on. So August standing committee would come out and workshop would just get dropped in there.
So take out August standing committee and put in workshop.
Yep.
Back to the workshop as part of the visitor services strategy. Happy with that, Mr. CEO?
Thank you.
Councillor Duff?
Yes, happy with that.
And acting chair, that won't need to go to the committee because that'll be just a report and a workshop. So
do
we'll
we
just get that and get on its way.
So we don't need to have a mover and a seconder. That's just straight in. You're going to deal with it.
Yeah. Mover and a seconder would be lovely, please. But
Righto.
yeah, we'll just get that as part of that workshop.
Righto, we will do that right now. So the motion, the notice of motion, and the motion is that a report be brought back to the workshop as part of the visitor services strategies with options for using existing staff in each of the towns using a roster system to work in the visitor information centres across the region. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Shoemaker, go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We'll now jump back to 10.4, deal with that. This Visitor Information Centre accreditation. The officer's recommendation that the report be noted for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, second Councillor Henson. We go straight to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. 10.5, we go on again to Mergen Visitor Information Centre proposal. The officer's recommendation that the Mergen Visitor Information Centre remains in Lamb Street and council provides support to Creative Country Association Inc. to provide tourism information. We have a mover. Councillor Duff.
Could I move a procedural motion that lay on the table until we meet with the group on the 20th of June?
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Erkins. We go straight to the vote. So the recommendation is that a procedural motion, that the matter lay on the table. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10 point. We're on to 11.2, 11.1. Questions on notice. And this one was put forward by Councillor Shoemaker. Is there any way to determine through rate searches if a resident is new to the South Burnett? We've got the response there. Councillor, are you happy with that? Questions, comments as far as that goes?
Yes, well, the purpose of the question was just around whether we could actually issue a welcome letter to the resident. So I see in the answer that wouldn't be possible until we get the transfer advice from the Queensland Department of Resources. So just in terms of and then our records are updated in Tech 1, in terms of the time frame for that, like, is that sort of a couple of month period, GM Jarvis, or, and, yeah?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, Councillor, sometimes it does vary. I think it's, and I stand to be corrected by Manager Kerry, but I think it's a month sometimes before we get those notifications through from DNR to actually do the transfer, even though we get notification of the rate searches, of course, prior to the purchase.
So just in terms of, that welcome letter that we've discussed as a council for some time now, do you see that as something that, we may actually be able to do as part of that process, just issue a standard letter with when we do the property transfer that says, welcome to our region and blah, blah, blah?
The only, through you, Deputy Mayor, the only complication there, and I guess it's not a complication, but we get only the owners that comes through for the property transfer. So a lot of purchases are done, for investments and that. So we would be sending, and a lot of people are external to the region, the owners. So we could obviously send them a letter, but we have no idea who would be renting those premises. For people who are going to purchase and live locally, absolutely. But yeah, we have a lot of times we also have companies or big organisations. So there's a bit of a complexity there with the ownership there. But yeah,
I just think the intent really is about trying to encourage new residents, if they move to the area, to reach or invest in the area, to reach out, to get to know the people at our visitor information centres or our libraries, so that they can, connect, because that's the feedback in a regional community. It's not always easy to move in. Whilst we're a very warm and friendly community, sometimes people often don't know where to go or can feel quite isolated if family and friends aren't around. So I guess the purpose where this discussion started was just being able to, at some point, send a letter to say, thank you for your investment and for choosing the South Burnett, and, please consider these things. You'll be able to find more information about community groups or all of these through our libraries and through our visitor information centres, just trying to share that information. So do you see that as something that we might be able to do a little bit more work on, you know, into the new year, just to make sure, just to have something in our system that allows that to happen?
Can I just, through you, most real estate agents actually give a welcome pack. I'm pretty sure if you did a letter, you know, it's a standard letter, and left it with the real estate agents and maybe one at the library and one at the visitor information centres to new people coming in. I know we give a pack saying this is who you contact for power, this is who you contact for that. So, you know, probably something like that could go into there, Kirsty.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor, I think it's a wonderful idea, I really do, because being a new resident, we've been here 2 years, and I remember moving in and we received a welcome letter from our local member welcoming us to the region, and I thought that was fabulous. And also, as Councillor Erkins alluded to, the real estate agent also gave us a welcome pack about services within the region. But I think it's great to open the doors there for council, because to offer or to inform them of the services, or to engage with us and direct them to the services that we do provide to the community. So we'll note that as far as, and we'll come up with some strategies to try to capture that. And I think it's, you know, if it is under the pen of the CEO or something, I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Councillor Potter, just to finish off.
Yeah, look, as I've said before, the information centres, I think in each town already do up visitor information packs. So maybe if we do up a letter, it could be something as simple in the letters state that please go to your visitor information centre and pick up your welcome to community pack, and then that then has all the information in of the libraries and everything else around.
Okay, happy with that, councillor? Yep. Okay. Haven't got a mover yet, have we? So obviously, yep, Councillor Shoemaker will remove that that the response to the question regarding is there any way to determine through rate searches if a resident is new to the South Burnett, raised by Councillor Shoemaker. Seconder, Councillor Potter. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. 11.2, Local Government Roadshow Learnings and Takeaway. Again, put forward by Councillor Shoemaker. The recommendation that the response to the question regarding local government roadshow learnings and takeaway raised by Councillor Shoemaker be received and noted. Councillor Shoemaker, you happy with the response? Comments?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just an interesting report. Certainly there are a few things there that I think we could all personally relate to, and it's just, I think, important when you know, if there are learnings from some of these activities, that we're reporting them back and sharing them with the team. So really do appreciate the report and the information provided.
Thank you. So you're happy to move that the response to the question regarding local government roadshow learnings and takeaway raised by Councillor Shoemaker received. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. We don't have any confidential. That brings us to the conclusion of 2 community standing groups. Thank you all very much for your participation. Great conversation. I declare the meeting closed at 3:10. Goodbye. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.